Hi guys, welcome to session 43 of Java Full Stack Made Easy. So in this session, we will be talking about JavaScript. As discussed in the previous session, like we talked about Bootstrap, and I told you that with the technology stack that we were discussing, let's just have a recap of the things. So if you remember, I told you in the technology stack at the UI side, we will be talking about HTML, CSS, Bootstrap, JavaScript, and Angular, right? And at the application side, we will talk about Java and Spring. And then at the database side, we will be talking about SQL and MongoDB. Fine. So we are actually done with the concepts of Java. We are done with HTML. We are done with CSS. And in the previous session, we talked about the Bootstrap as well. Now our focus will shift on JavaScript. Again, like for Bootstrap was a framework for HTML and CSS. Similarly, we will be using Angular framework for JavaScript. Obviously, which means what? To develop JavaScript application, if we use Angular, we will develop our applications much more faster than just doing it with JavaScript. So first we will understand the fundamentals of JavaScript and then we will move on to Angular. Fine. So in this session, we will be talking about why do we need JavaScript, what is ECMAScript 5 versus ECMAScript 6, then variable declarations in JavaScript, data types, DOM, and events. Fine. So let's go ahead and create our first simple JavaScript stuff. Fine. So what I'll do now is, as for now, I'll just clean up everything that I have written in the previous session for Bootstrap. So I'll also clean up the external links and everything that I have taken with Bootstrap, even the scripts and everything. So I just have a simple HTML page created here, and I'll also close this header tag. Like if you remember, we created CSS as an internal CSS. Also, we created a inline CSS and we created an external CSS. Similarly, JavaScript can be created as internal or external. If you are creating an external JavaScript, at that time, the file extension for JavaScript would be .js, like it was CSS for the CSS, right? Cascading style sheets. So now I will be using the internal script first. Later I will show you the example for an external script as well. So like we used to write the internal CSS with the style tag, here if you want to write a JavaScript, at that time you will be writing a script tag. Fine. Script type is equal to text slash JavaScript can be written for the same. So when we are using an internal JavaScript, so we will talk about what exactly JavaScript is all about, how do we create the JavaScript and all that. Fine. So script tag will be used for the same. So before I write my first JavaScript, let's go ahead and understand and talk about why do we need JavaScript, right? So the very first thing is that what is JavaScript and why do we need it? JavaScript is a programming language of web. Okay, so this is a very important statement. JavaScript is a programming language of web. So whatever web applications you are creating, the programming language for the web application is JavaScript itself. So today you might see, you might hear a lot of things into the UI side, like you might hear about things like Angular or maybe React or maybe you hear Vue.js or other things. So it's all about JavaScript frameworks itself. Fine. So what JavaScript does actually, JavaScript adds interactivity to HTML and CSS. Otherwise, HTML and CSS are just what? They are static web pages. So they don't do anything, right? So JavaScript actually adds the interactivity to your HTML and CSS. So like for example, if you create a button, right? Or maybe a form. So in JavaScript, you can create scripts that responds to the button. That means you can create events that will occur on click of a button. You can create forms in HTML, but you can validate that through JavaScript. Without JavaScript, you cannot validate that, right? Simple validations we have already seen with HTML also, but JavaScript is mainly used for the purpose of validations. Then using JavaScript itself, you can add animations and all. So to understand your web pages with JavaScript and without JavaScript is like, without JavaScript, your web pages are read only, whereas with JavaScript, your web pages can interact with the user. That means they can react to the events of user. Fine. So that's why that's what JavaScript is all about, right? So if we want to bring in life to our web pages, we should be using JavaScript. And the advantage of JavaScript is that it does not need any extra setup. That means there is no other thing that will be required for JavaScript. If you remember, for HTML and CSS also, we did not require any extra special setup. It runs on the browser and we would require only an editor to write it. Similarly, for JavaScript also, it runs on the browser and we don't need anything else other than just a browser for our JavaScript. Fine. And our JavaScript works with HTML and CSS, and our JavaScript is will be used to create dynamic and interactive web pages. Fine. So let's go ahead and also talk about yeah, as I told you, there are huge communities for JavaScript frameworks. We can make use of React or Angular or Vue or any JavaScript framework available in the market. So in our sessions, we will be using Angular. Fine. So now I'm using a internal type of script before I start up with JavaScript directly. I'll tell you the standard of JavaScript is ECMAScript. It's an official standard for JavaScript. So you might hear whenever you hear about JavaScript, you will hear about ES5 and ES6. So these are the two things that you will generally hear, or maybe even in the interviews, people might ask you what exactly is ES5 and ES6. These are the standards, official standards of JavaScript. Fine. So ES5 was actually released back in 2009. It's an older version, ECMAScript 5. So ES means ECMAScript 5. ES5 was introduced into 2009. Fine. So it's an older version, but still it is supported everywhere on every browser. So later ES ECMAScript 6 was introduced. So most of our application today uses ES6 itself, and it was introduced again back in 2015. So it got a lot of upgrades, and the syntax were different into ECMAScript 6. So variable definition was different into ECMAScript. In ES5, the variables only var was something that we used to use in ES5, whereas in ES6, let and const came into picture. Okay. Similarly, as far as the functions are concerned, in ECMAScript 5, we used to create only normal functions, whereas let's call it as normal function. And whereas when ES6 was introduced, we got something called as arrow function. So as we are already aware about the lambdas, arrow functions are like lambdas itself. So we will talk about arrow functions in details when we uh, reach to that particular topic, the functions and what arrow functions are, the syntax of arrow functions and everything. Fine. So also uh, in ECMAScript 5, what we used to have is we used to concatenate the variables and the string. Like for example, we might do something like hello, and then if there is a variable, we used to give like maybe a hello name. Something like this we used to do in ECMAScript 5. That is the older version. But in a newer version of JavaScript, what we actually do is we make use of the uh, template literals. Fine. So how do we make use of this template literals? So what we can simply do is we can say uh, hello, and then within that itself we can simply say a dollar name. So that way we will be able to use the template literals. And in ECMAScript 5 we had loops like for loop, uh, and here in ECMAScript 6 we have for off or for in. And the objects, as far as objects are concerned in ECMAScript 5, we used to have normal objects, whereas in ECMAScript 6, we now have classes and modules supported. Fine. So obviously, as the time progresses, we will definitely talk about these concepts that are introduced into ES6, and most of the things that we will be using will be from ES6 itself. ES6 also brought in the concept of providing default values to function parameters, and it got in the object properties as well. So we will be discussing everything in detail when we reach to that particular topic. Fine. So as for now, you just consider that in our examples, we will be talking about the ES6 itself. So the way we will be writing the stuff will be ES6. So I'll just put this comment somewhere here. Okay. So that you also get it when I post this into the repository. So let's go ahead and create our first JavaScript demo, where we will not be doing much, just a simple uh, hello on JavaScript. So also in this case, I'll be using an event in JavaScript, because I told you that JavaScript responds to your elements, HTML elements. So it can be created with the HTML. So let's go ahead and create a button, and this button would just say click. Okay. So on this button click, I want to do something. That is, on click is an event which can be applied in JavaScript. On click, I want to do something. I just want to print hello world. Okay. So I'm saying hello function. So I have not yet created a function called as hello, right? So I will be creating a JavaScript function called as hello, and I will be calling that particular function here. So let's go ahead and see how do we do it. So in JavaScript, if you are creating functions, you have to use this keyword called as function, and then define the function, and then there you go. Fine. So this is how a function is created. You have to create it with the function keyword. So there are ways where we create functions without the function keyword also. In future, I will tell you even that. Okay. So as for now, if it is created within the class, it can be created without a function keyword. If it is created outside the class, it has to be created with a function keyword. You just remember this point. Now, alerts can be created in JavaScript, which is nothing but the pop-up that you will see. So let's just say hello world. So this is our first Java script application. I'll save it, and I will run this on the browser. So let's open it with a live server, like we used to open the HTML pages. So when I click on this, you see that it says hello world. A pop-up is displayed, and I get the message hello world. That is the alert that I have written with the JavaScript. So this is a simple JavaScript program that I have written, where I introduced a JavaScript, and what I have created, we have created a simple function in JavaScript that gives us an alert. So printing JavaScript outputs can be printed in alerts, or it can also be printed on console. So there can be a console.log, that is like system.out.println of Java. So one more point about JavaScript is that you can use single quotes or double quotes, both are valid in JavaScript. So console.log testing console is something which I want to write. I save it, and let's just refresh this. And if you right click on your browser, you click on this inspect element and go to the console, and on the console itself you will be seeing the result of your console. Okay. So anyways, first I'll just click on this. Okay. So on console, we should be seeing it. So let me just organize this properly so that I see every single thing that I want in HTML to be displayed. So here is the console. Let's place it somewhere. Yeah. So anyways, we will be looking for this. So testing console. So when I click on this button, it prints me testing console. I can keep hitting on that, and it keeps printing me on the console. So 3 times it has printed me a testing console on the console. Fine. So any error occurs in JavaScript, you should be seeing it in the console itself. Like for example, I have this function which is an error, so which is not created properly. So you can see that on console it says uncaught syntax, unexpected identifier, hello. So that is because I did not complete this particular function. So JavaScript does give you errors. HTML and CSS, we did not used to see errors, right? So here on the console, you will see the JavaScript errors that are occurred. Fine. So let me first put this simple demo into the repo. So this is our day 42, right? Or 43. This is day 43. So day 42 is already given. Yeah. So this is our day 43 demo 1. Let's call it as hello. So two ways of printing the message in JavaScript I have used. One is the alert, that's a pop-up, and then uh, a console message. So that's done. Let's go back to our JavaScript. Now let's talk about the variables that are there in JavaScript. So as I told you, ES5 versus ES6. So since we are using ES6, we will be using all the other type of variables as well. That is our let and const variables as well. So what we used to have before was we used to have just the var. Okay, so we can create a JavaScript variable as var. Let's call this as an old type of variable, which will be equal to let's say this is var. And similarly, what I will do is I will create second and the third variable with the other keywords. That is, I'll be using a let and a const. Okay, so this constant variables are what? This is nothing but a final variable. Okay, let variables are what? They are simply local variables, block scope variables. Okay, this is let, and this is what? Const, a final variable. Let's save it. And also what we are gonna do is we'll just print them. Okay, so in this example we'll also see the other way of printing what our HTML, our JavaScript outputs. JavaScript can even modify your DOMs, and let's see how do we do that. So which can be done by using a document dot write, and let's use a write line itself. So I want to write what the old variable I created, right? Old type variable I have created. So that's what I want to print. I want to print the block scope and the final. Okay, block scope and final. So three things I want to print. Let's save it and see. On click of a button, hello is called. So when I click on this particular button, it should call hello, and if there is no error, then it is printing it here. So you can see that this is a var, this is a let, this is a const, which is a final variable. All that is actually printed here. Fine. So although I've used a write line, it is not printing me on the next line anyways. So what I will do is I'll use it this way. Fine. So we know that it can take HTML tags also. So we can simply say br tag, and there we go. Save it, refresh, and when I click this, you can see that this is a var, this is a let, and this is a const, a final variable. So all three type of variables are created here, and you can also see that the limitation of that document dot write that I have written actually removes every other thing that is placed on the document, and it starts creating the new data on it. Fine. So now let's understand the difference between them. Okay, so we can either print it on document.write, or we can simply say what console.log. Just to show you that there's another way of printing these variables, I've used a document.write, or else the best usage would be the console itself. So document write and variables. So let's put this into the repository. And now let's get back to our code, and instead of using this document.write, let's just go and write console.log so that it prints it on the console. So since it is a console log, we don't need br within there. Okay, we will not be concatenating this br, which will not be required, unnecessary thing, right? Br was used to break that line, right? So here there's no use of br. So let's save it, and also first see the variables being printed. Yes, the variables are being printed. Now what I want is, I want to actually know the differences between these variables. Okay, so I define this var, let and const here. So let's first see the difference between var let versus const. So if I say old type is equal to new value, and then I print console.log, that should be fine for us, right? So you can see that, click. So we should be getting a new value, right? So this is old var, we are getting a new value. Similarly, I want to change this final. Final is equal to new value, and I want to actually print that final. So final is not a keyword here, right? Because I'm using it as an identifier. So when I click this, you can see that assignment to constant variables, uncaught type error. You cannot do that. Okay. So you cannot change the value of a constant variable error. Okay. So it's constant, right? So its value is fixed. You cannot change it. Similarly, let's also see what a variable created with let does. Okay. So I'll create it. We already know the concept of looping, right? So let x is equal to 10. Okay. And then x is less than 2. Let's say let x is equal to 1, x is less than 2, and let's do a x plus plus. And here we will do something like console.log and all that. I'm trying to perform a console.log outside of the for loop, and I'm trying to check what is there in that x. Fine. So let's say value of x is equal to plus x. So I save it, and now I click on this button. Now you can see that yeah, assignment to constant, that cannot be done. That's an error first. So we will remove that error. Let's save it. Let's run it now. So you can see that uncaught reference x is not defined. So you're seeing that error because it cannot understand what is x, right? Similarly, what I'm gonna do is I will test the same thing with var. Okay, so here I will be creating a var, let's call it as y, and y is less than 2, y plus plus, and here the value of y plus y, and here the value of x plus x. Let's do that. Let's save it and now see what happens. So now you can see that the value of y is 2. So although I have defined this variable here inside the for loop, it's still not a block scope variable, right? So it is function scope itself. It can be used anywhere in the function, whereas this particular variable which is created with let, it is a block scope variable. Fine. So here we will just put the comment. This is what function scope, and this is blocks scoped, and this is what, it's a final variable, a constant. Fine. So I hope now you got to know the difference between the var, let, and const variable that can be used in JavaScript. Okay, so let me just put that demo as well into the repository. Let's call it as demo 3, var versus let versus const. All right. So now let's talk about the data types that are there in JavaScript. So let me first clean up everything that I have written here. And you can also create JavaScript variables without even specifying any values. That is just declare a variable and leave it, right? So we can see, by doing that we will see what exactly is the default value of a variable. So let's do that. Let x and does not define anything to it. So console.log. Now let's define that x and see what is there in that x. So when I click on this, you can see that it is undefined. So what I will do is, instead of I'm clicking the button all the time, so what I will do is I want this function to be loaded right when the function is created. So I'll remove it from here, and I will call the function here itself within the script, that is hello. So I would not be required to click the button always. Fine. So I can just go here and you can see that it is undefined. So the default value of this variable is undefined. Okay. Similarly, what we can do is we can create variables that are string, number, boolean, and null as well. So those are the type of uh, variables. Fine. So let's go ahead and understand that. So let's say name is equal to anything. Let's say Virat. And similarly, we can create an age variable will be, let's say, 35. And similarly, we can keep creating things like what whether let is important. Okay, so which can be obviously what true in this case. And what all we have defined an undefined variable, and yeah, let income equals to null, so it is unknown values. So these are the values of the variables that we can give in JavaScript. It can be a string, it can be a number, sorry. So whenever we are defining a number, it should not be in single quotes. Fine. And then we can define variables that are of type Boolean, true and false, and the variables that are actually undefined, and also variables that hold the null values. We can also uh, create functions as variables and all that. So those complicated stuff we will see in our later session. As of now, talking about the data types, it can be null, it can be boolean, it can be number, it can be string. Fine, it can be undefined as well. And what we can actually do is we can also do something like console.log and then say uh, there is a type of keyword available into JavaScript which tells us the type of name. So let's go ahead and see what is it. So the type of name is string. Similarly, we can check the type of other things as well. So you can go ahead and check the type of age, or maybe check the type of is important, or the type of income. So that way it will tell you what is the type of that variable. So you can see that it is string, number, boolean, and object. Fine, because we have defined it as what we have defined it as null. So this is how you can create JavaScript variables, and these are the data types that are available into JavaScript. Okay, so let me just add this particular file there, demo for JavaScript data types. All right, so if you remember in the previous example, I told you that writing a write function changes the DOM. Now, what is that DOM? Document Object Model. What is it? Okay, so DOM is a programming interface for HTML and XML documents. Uh, to understand it in a simple way, you can just consider that DOM represents the page so that the programs like JavaScript can manipulate the structure, style, and content dynamically. Fine. So DOM is just what, if you want to remember what exactly DOM is a tree structure representation of an HTML page. So let us understand what exactly the DOM is and how the DOM works. So we have already changed the DOM, right? We manipulated DOM by using a document dot write. We can also use the other things to manipulate the DOM. Let us first understand the document object model first. So I'll be putting some comments over here so that you understand what exactly this DOM and everything is all about. DOM means document object model. uh, and what this DOM is all about, in let's understand that in simple words. What is it? It is a tree structure. It's a tree structure representation of HTML. Okay, so this way we can understand DOMs. Fine. So each tag in HTML becomes a node in a DOM. So let us understand uh, how that tree would look like with a simple HTML example. So each tag becomes a node, right? So I will be writing what a simple HTML page I will write here. It could look like this HTML. Fine. And there will definitely be a closing tag of HTML. And then let's create some body tag, another tag within that. Let's close the body as well. And then we will create some more tags. Let's say there is an h1 tag and I have returned something here, and then I close that h1. Similarly, I might create paragraphs, divs, or anything that I like. So I close the paragraph. So if my HTML is like this, the DOM would look like this. That means the DOM tree looks like this. DOM tree is what? It's a tree structure representation of HTML. So how it would look like? Document, then we will have HTML, then we will have body tag, right? And then we will have the h1 tag, and then the p tag, since it is a part of body itself. So I'll be writing it as p1 here. If there was a div and within that if there was p1, so I would be writing body contains div and then div contains, if suppose now in this case if p1 contains some div, so I would be writing it like that. Fine. So it's a tree structure representation of the tags. That is what DOM is all about in JavaScript. So you should be remembering this part. And also you need to remember a bit more things about the DOM is that it's just a simple tree representation, makes your page interactive. Okay. Because of the DOM itself, JavaScript can react to user events, clicks, inputs, overs, and all that. Okay. Uh, JavaScript can access and change the HTML elements only because of the DOM. And JavaScript can change even the CSS style dynamically with the help of DOM itself. Okay, so this is very important thing. A document object model DOM represents the page so that programs like JavaScript can actually manipulate the structure and style of the contents. Fine. So let's try and do one more DOM manipulation and see how it works. Fine. So in the previous case, I just used a document dot write. So in this case, what I'm gonna do is once again I'm gonna create a function which will try and change an element over here, which is an HTML element. Uh, we have a button here. So what I will do is on click of this particular button, I will call this hello function. Okay, so an event should be generated first. So let's generate that. On click is something which I want to generate. So on click hello should happen. Okay, and then what I will do is I will be writing something over here. Maybe let's write a h1 and heading should be written here. And on a heading, let's just say uh, JavaScript. Okay, and we need to give IDs to each of the element so that we can get it into the uh, JavaScript so that the DOM can understand it. Okay, so let's give the ID as head or anything. We can give anything. There's no restriction like that. So h1's ID, this heading tags ID is anything. So how will I get it in JavaScript? So within the function, what I have to simply do is I have to say document dot get element by ID. This is going to be a very important method for us, which actually retrieves the elements for us. Okay, so get element by ID. What is the ID of that element? Anything, right? So I'm saying that get element by ID. The ID of the element is anything. Okay, so we get that, and then we can do anything with it. That is, I can say inner HTML of this should be equal to JavaScript is fun. Okay, so let's save it and go to the browser. So you can see that on heading first JavaScript is displayed. The moment I click on this, it says JavaScript is fun. So what am I actually changing is I'm manipulating the DOM, document object model. I'm manipulating it here. So I'm retrieving the HTML element, that is h2, and changing the value of that h2. So you can see that here I do a get element by id anything, which is nothing but the h1 element. I retrieve the h1 element and change the value there. Okay, inner HTML. So that way I can simply just go ahead and change the values or anything. So let me copy this and put it into the repository. We will call it as DOM manipulation. Demo 4, DOM manipulation. Okay, and this is get element by ID. All right, so looks good, right? So what we have done is we have simply created an event here, and using that particular event, we have changed the document element. Okay, so we can even change the styles as well, right? So we know that by using DOMs, we can even change the styles. So that means we can even change the color or anything that's related to the styles. So let's go ahead and understand how can we do that. Okay, so let's create the HTML first for the same, and then we will create some data. We'll use the document and then try to change it. So I'll just clean up this comments that I have written here, and let's have a JavaScript, and inside the JavaScript we already have a function called as hello. On click of this button, hello function gets called, and we already have a body here which is, and there is an h1. So as for now I don't want this document dot get element by id and all this thing. So what I want is when this particular function is clicked, I want the document dot the body tag has to be selected. Okay, and then I want to perform a style dot background color. Okay, so I want the background color and I can give the value anything, any value here, maybe what blue colored background I want. I save it and there I go. So the moment I click on this, I can change even the style, the CSS. So if you remember during the DOM itself, I told you it is because of the DOM, we can even change the CSS. So on click of this, I just changed the background. So what I did, I simply did a document dot body. So that means it will pick up the body element. If you remember the tree, so there was an HTML and within that there was a body created, right? So I'm picking up that body from there and then the properties of that body, which is style and the background. So I'm trying just to change that. So that way our uh, DOM even can be modified. So, and here an event is used. So it's an example of a mixed thing, DOM plus an event. So let me give this as demo. Sorry, this is demo 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. So let's call it as demo 6 DOM color change. Fine. So we can also use built-in objects from HTML, sorry, from JavaScript. So let's see how do we make use of the built-in functions and the objects that are predefined available into our JavaScript. So I'll just clean up this color stuff from here. So once somebody clicks on the button, what I want is I want this to actually display the current date and time. So let's go ahead and do that. So we'll simply say uh, get element by ID and in our HTML should display me the date. Let's save it and see that. So on click of this, we get the current date and time. Okay, so that way we can even make use of the built-in functions that are available into JavaScript. It's not just a function, it's actually an object, and I'm calling that particular object. It can because it can be called with new date as well. So that way we can make use of the JavaScript. Okay, uh, and other events can also be used like in the previous, like in these two examples and all. I'm just using the click events. There can be different type of events that can be used in JavaScript. So first let me just put this into the repository and call it as calling the date. So demo 7. call date. Yes. So what I will do is in the next session, I'll tell you how can we make use of the JavaScript events and everything. So as for now, for those people who cannot go beyond 30 minutes, for them we will stop the sessions because sometimes you cannot concentrate for hours. So it'll be better if you pause, take a break, and then come back and start fresh. So we will definitely talk more about the events in this session. We have already covered up why do we need JavaScript, the simple differences between ECMAScript 5 and ECMAScript 6, variables, type of variables we have already discussed, then the data types. Type of is something that we have seen, and also we have seen the DOM. We have manipulated the DOM, and only one event we have seen as for now, which is the click event. So in our next session we will talk more about the other events, like there can be a key event. If we want, we can even prevent the events, and we can also create hovering events and all that. So in our next session we will try to make it more interesting. Fine. So again, if you like the series, do share the series with your friends. Let's learn it together. Okay. So see you in the next session. Thank you for your patience. Good luck.